slow play drum beat grows louder and louder every week, to the point now that they're making overt references to it on the broadcast.
So there's plenty of other guys that have to get faster. Tom definitely is more deliberate in his conversations, always has been since he's been on tour. I just think about Joe Scover and when those two started working together, how their conversations always seem to just keep on going and going.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
At some point, these 80s are to learn, we don't need to hire ex-NBA guys. I need guys with college experience, who's gone out and recruited, who knows how to develop talent. NBA guys with no college experience don't work in college basketball. I understand they run NBA-style offenses, but it doesn't mean they can run college programs.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
In a short format tournament like this, like the Olympics, now this is even smaller, only 4 teams, who's got the best goaltending? You're talking 3 round robin games and then a knockout with 4 teams. So you're playing 5 games.
I'm not sold yet, Mike, on the USA stuff, on the merch, but I think I'm sold on the USA at least being in the final.
Only on SportsGrid.
20-34. They are 14 games below 500. Any given night, you have no idea who is going to play for Philadelphia. Embiid has missed so many more games than he has actually played this year.
I will not bet on the Ravens to win the Super Bowl. I will not bet on the Ravens to win the Super Bowl. I will not bet on the Ravens because for the last 4 years now, do it every year, and I want to hit myself in the head with a bat.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome in. It is Game Time Decisions. We are with you here on a Thursday in February where it is all happening. We're live on SportsGrid. I'm Kevin Walsh with you for the next 2 hours with so much to get to. We have the finale of the Four Nations tournament, which has been a major success. It has potentially kind of shifted how we view hockey in this country. We'll get to that. We have the full return of the NBA tonight. We saw last night one game due to some rescheduling, Lakers-Hornets. Major letdown for LA as they lose at home, laying 12.5 up to 13.5 in spots against the Hornets outright at home. Luka still struggling in his time back from injury, which coincides with his debuts and first few games here for the LA Lakers. The full slate tonight has a number of intriguing spots. One of the primetime games, though, will be missing a major star. That's Victor Wembanyama, not just tonight, but the remainder of the year. The Spurs big man will be out. We will hit any relevant NFL news, like the Philadelphia Eagles officially switching or announcing their new offensive coordinator. And we will also stop over into the world of Major League Baseball, playing some spring training. Might as well. Joe Pisapia is going to stop by to help us with that. We'll have Coach James Young here. We'll have Dane Martinez in the fold, Joe Madden, as well as Tom Vecchio, and, of course, Dave Sharapan. So it is a real loaded Thursday for us here on SportsGrid. But I am more than happy to open it up, talking some Four Nations. I think some of the buzz that we saw on Saturday has certainly carried over. I do not know if it is, well, I actually feel pretty strongly it is not as big as it was going into that Saturday. But again, I could be off. Maybe I'm not in the appropriate circles. That's on the board, right? This game tonight, though, is, and this tournament is a game changer. You know, I was having a conversation with someone earlier today about what it means big picture, right? And I think it's been very interesting for the Four Nations tournament, of course, to coincide with the NBA's All-Star Weekend. And of course, you know, the NHL seasons and NBA seasons are always happening simultaneously. Their postseasons collide. Their Stanley Cup final, NBA finals usually alternate nights, and you kind of see them work in unison in that way during the summer. But I think with the success of the Four Nations, if we keep it strictly to hockey, the sport of hockey, it is reminiscent a little bit of soccer, right? World football, where it really is at its core a global game, and that is the peak, the pinnacle of the sport, and that is what's going to be perhaps now for the sport of hockey really what people focus on and really what gets people to show up. The comparisons are not perfect because, again, you know, the NHL equivalent is certainly not MLS, right? You're talking the Premier League, La Liga, right? So that's the Bundesliga. That's much different. But if you compare Champions League football, right, that, while is great, pales in comparison to the World Cup. We know that. It feels as if now the NHL, the games between the Oilers and the Rangers, the Blackhawks and the Bruins, will pale in comparison to USA versus Canada, Sweden versus Finland, and when we expand this whole thing out into the Olympics, in the way when we're at the World Cup, Brazil versus Germany, no matter what, is much bigger than Real Madrid versus Manchester City. It feels as if the way people swoop in to certain sports at certain times, the hockey swoop in now may be more Four Nations tournament than playoffs. Not that there won't be some playoff buzz. Maybe they'll have multiple swoop-ins. That's fantastic. But it feels like this is a very real game changer for this sport. And it's going to be a fascinating one to follow. With the game tonight, USA is the favorite. They'll have Hellebuck back in net, and he is the favorite to win the Four Nations Face-Off MVP on FanDuel at plus 200. The game tonight is totaled at 5.5, minus 134 juice towards the under. That does vary from book to book. This game being pick is awesome. It adds to it. That is how you can typically drum up so much interest, right? When you have legitimate arguments and cases to make for either side of the game, right? And tonight I look at this one, and I won't tell you that it is clear-cut, definitive to me who's going to win this. And that certainly is coincided with, you know, hockey not being tip-top number one for old K-Dubs, but it doesn't mean it'll stop me from getting in the mix. And a lot of you aren't going to like this. But, listen, I might be from the U.S. of A., but the most unbiased man in the history of sports media is from the U.S. of A. Now, don't go crazy. I didn't bet Canada money line. I did bet Canada over a first-period goal. Hellebuck's given up 2 goals in this tournament. Each have come in the first period. McDavid opened the scoring against USA in that first meeting. I think Canada's offense tonight could have a little bit more success as I look into the game. I think if they do, it's going to come early. It's about minus 136. You can always find your profit boosts out there because this is a big game. I'm going with the Canada first period team total over a half. And then you can get back, you know, right back to rooting for the USA. It could be 3-0. And then it's 3-1. You know, people today in group chat that I frequent, which is my brother and our friend, not rooting it in. Not rooting it in. That's okay. We're still in the mix, though. We are going to peel back to the NBA. I want to give you 2 of the picks tonight because then we're going to talk some San Antonio Spurs. On Pascal Siakam, over 10.5 rebounds plus assists. We've seen Siakam thrive in these games where the Pacers are matched up with a fast team. No one faster than the Memphis Grizzlies, which is why we have a 250 spot tonight for the total in that game. Right now, Memphis, a short road favorite, sitting at minus 118 on that money line. And then I am going to take the 12 with the Chicago Bulls. That number, 11.5 in one spot. I imagine you could still, and you can still grab a 12 out there. The Knicks without Josh Hart still. Looks like they could get OG Anunoby back for this one. But for me, this is a real test for Billy Donovan. 2 games before the break, Chicago lost at home by 40 to Detroit. And the follow-up game was the next night against Detroit, and they lost nearly by 20. I understand the Bulls season is over. I understand they traded off pieces. This is a give your guys a shake and go out there and compete. And I think they'll be able to go out there and compete with the New York Knicks tonight. On the other side, Victor Wembanyama, the injury, what it means short-term, long-term, and their game with the Suns tonight, which does feature my best bet on tonight's card between the Spurs and the Suns. We will get into that. It is a quick break. We're live with you right here on Game Time Decisions.
So my team didn't win this weekend, but I still did with this app that's taking over the game. Sports Millions Pick'em lets you make quick and easy predictions. Pick your favorite players, go higher or lower, and you can still win big even if your team loses. Plus, the multiplier is insane. With just a few picks, you can win big money. So get on it. They've got a welcome bonus to help you start off your winning streak.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
The 2 guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What?
How do you do this one?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Some big news in the NBA today. Victor Wembanyama will be out for the remainder of the season, which is incredibly unfortunate news. Though, with it being a situation tied to blood clots, it is, as much of it's bad news, it's great news that they found this, and it's something that they believe is a one-off, and they'll be able to attack, and that'll be that, which is great. But there, of course, is some fallout with this news. And the first and most immediate is the shakeup in the Defensive Player of the Year race. Heading into the All-Star break, this was done. Minus 2,400, as you see there, or Victor Wembanyama, who will now not be able to meet the amount of games required to be eligible for this award. Even if we remove that, I doubt Vic playing just the first half of the season would have won Defensive Player of the Year, but now is viewed as ineligible, and that's why his number is off the board. You see, Evan Mobley and Jaren Jackson Jr. are becoming the two names at the top of the board. Those numbers have moved around some. The kind of clear-cut across-the-card view is Jaren Jackson Jr. is the favorite. Evan Mobley is right behind him. And then it is up for grabs beyond that. And I think the award is still up for grabs. It's going to be a reset. We're going to have to find new narratives because this award was over. It was Wemby's. It was done. That was it. And I want to take that fact and then bring it back into the beginning of the season. I think today, rudely, some will victory lap telling people not to bet Wemby to win Defensive Player of the Year. Now, I was a part of the number of people who said you cannot be betting Wemby at minus 130, minus 150, minus 200 to win Defensive Player of the Year preseason. It's an award, and too much can go wrong. And something went wrong. Now, a freak, one-of-one injury, right? But something did go wrong. Here's the deal, though. Your, let's call it minus 130 ticket was a winner. So it would be wrong of me, and again, I think it's wrong of anyone who says, see, you made a bad bet. You didn't make a bad bet. You didn't. It is unfortunate, though, that this was the risk that you who made that Wemby DPOY bet knew came with it. What I think is difficult is when people bet awards, right? To some degree, they want a decent payout. I would imagine most award bets you're expecting to get 5 to 1 on your money. If you're betting Wemby at, again, a minus 130, a minus 150, you might be betting that award a little bit heavier. But you're telling yourself, well, it's going to come in. And it was until this. The fascinating thing, though, now as we move forward is what happens to the number for Wembanyama next season. We'll be in the same boat. As long as he is healthy, it is his. Do the books make it even? The books would be understandable if they went to minus 250. Again, ultimately, the minus 130 number was a good bet, and the books were saved by the injury. So will they go minus 250 because we can't bank on injury saving us again? Or will they go, I don't know. Maybe there's a bailout here. Let's go plus 150. Let's go 2 to 1. They're going to get bet all the way down, though. We know that. What's interesting is if we even zoom out a little bit more on Victor Wembanyama's career, how many of these awards do we expect Wemby to win? I think entering his NBA career before he played a game, the number likely would have been 3.5. The award has been won 4 times by 3 different players. Dikembe Mutombo, Rudy Gobert, and Ben Wallace. So the question before Wemby played a game likely would have been, will he meet those guys' mark? I think after 1 season, that number goes to 4.5. Victor Wembanyama, if you now look, right, in his 2 seasons, many would argue should have already won 2 Defensive Player of the Years. He received a ton of votes in his rookie season. Despite being on a bad basketball team as a rookie, received a ton of votes. Many believed he deserved that award. You get to this year, and he might have won it unanimously. But this is where it gets very interesting to me now when we think about the number for Victor Wembanyama long term. Was Wemby supposed to win this award 7, 8, 9 straight times? Again, the most ever is 4. And for Wemby, who I think many people would expect to win over under 2.5 league MVPs, 3.5 league MVPs, usually there is a point in your career where you shift out of this award. Here's the deal about Dikembe Mutombo, Ben Wallace, and Rudy Gobert. There are no MVP votes on their ledger. That is not how we viewed those players. The comp for Wemby would be Dwight Howard, right? Dwight won 3 straight DPOYs, and in those seasons finished 4th, and 2nd in MVP voting. Dwight was a simultaneous MVP candidate and Defensive Player of the Year award winner. But again, Dwight wasn't ripping off MVP. At some point, you have to imagine Vic will win League MVP as well as Defensive Player of the Year, right? But could we get to a point where the MVP stuff overshadows it and somebody else wins Defensive Player of the Year? Or, because this is how basketball works, the offensive load becomes so much, you can't be as effective defensively, which is what happened to Giannis Antetokounmpo, who only won DPOY once, or Kawhi Leonard, who won this twice, but just the 2 times. I just think it's fascinating because Victor Wembanyama very easily could be 2 for 2 in his young career on Defensive Player of the Years, but is now sitting at none. At some point, he is going to win this award. It would be stunning if he didn't win it multiple times. But if, let's say, Vic was going to win this award 6 times in his career, have 2 of those just passed him by. Something to think about when next year we wait to see how they price the guy who's clearly going to win an award as long as he doesn't get injured in Victor Wembanyama. I mentioned that best bet, Chris Paul over points plus assists, 16.5. We'll do some Sports Million Pick'em next.
Slow play drum beat grows louder and louder every week to the point now that they're making overt references to it on the broadcast.
So there's plenty of other guys that have to get faster. Tom definitely is more deliberate in his conversations, always has been since he's been on tour. I just think about Joe Scoverin, when those two started working together, how their conversations always seem to just keep on going and going.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
At some point, these 80s are to learn, we don't need to hire ex-NBA guys. I need guys with college experience, who's gone out and recruited, who know how to develop talent. NBA guys with no college experience don't work in college basketball. I understand they run NBA-style offenses, but it doesn't mean they can run college programs.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
In a short format tournament like this, like the Olympics, now this is even smaller, only 4 teams, who's got the best goaltending? Over, you're talking 3 round robin games and then a knockout with 4 teams. So you're playing 5 games.
I'm not sold yet, Mike, on the USA stuff, on the merch, but I think I'm sold on the USA at least being in the final.
Only on SportsGrid.
20 in 34. They are 14 games below 500. Any given night, you have no idea who is going to play for Philadelphia. Embiid has missed so many more games than he has actually played this year.
I will not bet on the Ravens to win the Super Bowl. I will not bet on the Ravens to win the Super Bowl. I will not bet on the Ravens because for the last 4 years now, do it every year, and I want to hit myself in the head with a bat.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
We're back on Game Time Decisions. Kevin Walsh with you here on this Thursday night. Coming up next, we are going to talk to Joe Pisapia around Major League Baseball, which soon enough, those baseball options I'm sure you'll be able to find over on Sports Million Pick'em. But for tonight, we've got plenty of action with the NBA back in full effect. So let's see what we have offered up tonight.
Happy Thursday, everyone. It's time to jump into our Sports Millions pick'ems for today. We're going to turn to the hardwood, look at some NBA. But, Tom, we have to talk about last night. We went reverse sweep last night. Austin Reeves, for me, was not able to put up those points. LeBron and Luka both had a lot of minutes out there on the court. I didn't expect LeBron to play. And then Austin Reeves got ejected. First time in his career. What happened with yours?
Yeah, well, just an interesting game overall. Fewer than 200 points combined. Lakers, blow this lead, whatever it might be. Ball starts off super slow from deep, only one in the first half, and comes out on fire. Obviously, the Hornets with the comeback overall ends the game with 5. So we didn't get that. Let's turn to tonight's slate. I'm going to the matchup between the Grizzlies and the Pacers. Tyrese Halliburton, lower than 18.5 points. This game has an insane 250 total, which I think is just way, way too high. I'm expecting these teams to come out a bit slower, kind of as we saw last night. These teams haven't played in over a week. I think we're going to see a slower pace, not just for this game between the Pacers and Grizzlies, but really all games across tonight's slate. So Halliburton, lower than 18.5 points. He's been under this number in 6 out of his last 10 games. I just think it takes the teams a little bit to get going after such an extended break. What do you got tonight?
Yeah, I love where you're going there, and I can't believe that game has that total 250. When I looked at that, that's just sky high, Tom. I just can't see it coming into play. But I'm going to look at the Bulls versus the Knicks. Now, the Bulls love to push the Knicks into faster-paced games. We saw this matchup back in January, and we did see the Bulls walk away with a 139-126 win. In that game, Josh Giddey really went off. He had 15 points with 10 rebounds and 8 assists out there on the court. And when we look at him today, the line has moved overnight on Sports Millions. It was 12.5 points. I was looking to take it to the higher last night, and I'm still going to go there to the higher for Josh Giddey. So higher than 13.5 points tonight versus the New York Knicks. He had success going into the All-Star break. He was able to put up in that last game 17 points versus the Pistons. And looking at him, when we look at him overall versus the Knicks, this is a team that he normally has success against. He's averaging in the last 7, 16.1 points per game versus them, 8.7 rebounds and 8.4 assists. So I do think, even though coming out of the All-Star break, that we'll probably see a little bit slower paced, I just can't deny the fact that the Bulls really pushed them into such a fast pace the last time they played. I do think it's the Bulls' recipe for success out there, and Josh Giddey really has to hit the floor tonight and be able to get at least 14 points on the board. So give me Josh Giddey higher than 13.5 points tonight, Tom.
We will be back with NBA tomorrow and then picking up NHL once it returns next week.
Yeah, let's go for the sweep tonight, Tom. We'll see you guys tomorrow.
All right, great stuff there from both Tom and Joe. We'll talk a little bit about the Lakers, but first, just a few of those additional other options that you can find over on Sports Million Pick'em.
Enjoy Sports Millions Pick'ems, but hate making the picks yourself? Well, Sports Millions has you covered. Head on over and play Sports Millions Blitz'em right now and let the computer do the work. Go to sportsmillions.com/blitz'em to be able to win big prizes without having to make a single pick yourself. That's sportsmillions.com/blitz'em.
So with the LA Lakers tonight, you'll see on Sports Million Pick'em LeBron 26.5 points. You'll see Austin Reeves 24.5 points, which is the indicator to let you know that Luka Doncic is out for this game. The Lakers are playing on a back-to-back as they had to play yesterday. Some rescheduling. It's just how it broke for them. And the Lakers' loss yesterday was a really bad one, undoubtedly. They led by as many as 13 in that basketball game. A horrific third quarter that extended a little bit actually into the fourth quarter, stopped them from getting what should have been an easy victory. Now, an Austin Reeves ejection didn't help matters, but Luka Doncic having his worst shooting game yet with the Lakers while still not having a good shooting game yet with the Lakers also did this team in. One of the big questions that I think now surrounds LA, and a question that will stay with LA heading into their weekend matchup with the Denver Nuggets, is when will Luka Doncic look like Luka Doncic? We'll talk some Major League Baseball with Joe Pisapia next here on SportsGrid.
I guess this is the battle for second place in the NBA's MVP. It's been Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. He was like minus 250 a couple months ago. Then last month it was 3-1. I mean, it's now up to minus 440 here.
Voter fatigue is a real thing, but there is a chance for him to maybe go on a hot tear, go on a stretch that maybe opens the conversation back up a little bit. I wouldn't say Shai's completely out of the woods just yet.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
You watch playoff games. The playoffs are all that matter, and the league's got an issue. They just don't want to admit it. They brag about how huge they are, how global they are, ratings are through the roof, profits are through the roof. I mean, between the NBA and NHL lying about their ratings and the money they make, I'm sick and tired of it.
Pharrell, Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
I talked about AZ Fun a lot, folks, and said when she got back from that knee injury, remember, it's the second ACL tear she's had in her career, that she was going to be a difference maker. UConn is plus 330. They're not going to get challenged again in the Big East until they come out of conference play in a conference tournament. I still like them at plus 330 to win a national championship.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
I've told people Game Time Decisions is kind of a baseball show. Not by me, not by my doing, but everybody behind the scenes, which is why today we're going to do a Take 5. 5 things to watch this spring training, and it's not just me. We got the entire crew involved. And then on top of that, a little gift for the people. We also got Joe Pisapia involved here. Joe, how are we doing getting set for another season of Major League Baseball?
Doing great, very excited, and I know the crew that you're talking about. They're partially my crew as well, which is why you're getting saddled with all this baseball talk, and why you're saddled with me as a guest, I'm pretty sure, also. But I'm excited, man. Look, last year was a terrific year for Major League Baseball with the rule changes being implemented the last couple of years. Things have really opened up again. I think there's excitement for the game again, and there's a lot of excitement, too, in some of the bigger markets, New York, Boston, and that is helpful for the game, too. And obviously that team in Los Angeles is pretty good.
Yeah, they are. And we'll get to all that within this Take 5. We'll kind of go through order. And we'll start in L.A. with Ohtani, but specifically the pitcher. This, to me, is the most important aspect of the NL MVP race. Ohtani is supposed to be a cheat code to win MVP, but you took the pitching away. Well, then he still won it as a DH. It was a weaker field because of injuries. He also stole and created the 50-50 club. So now that he's pitching, it feels like if he's a 3.5 ERA or better, he's just automatically going to win this. What are you looking for from Ohtani, the pitcher, this spring?
Well, look, I don't know how much you're going to see of him this spring. Maybe very little. I think they are going to take their time. They've got some depth in this rotation now. So even if they don't want to unleash Ohtani, the pitcher, in the month of April, which I think is probably the most likely pattern, you are going to see him at some point. And you mentioned it. It's kind of insane to think that, the guy then had a 50-50 season. I mean, it's absurd. It's ridiculous. He's rewriting every single book there possibly is. But when you're looking at Ohtani, the pitcher, I mean, you're looking from, especially a fantasy perspective, you're looking at a guy that gives you a very high strikeout rate. The last time we saw him in 2023, 132 innings, 167 strikeouts, just 47 walks. Now, sometimes you will struggle with control a little bit, but I mean, when you're talking about being a pitcher that has a higher than 9 K per 9 and is pitching to around a low 3 ERA, that's one of the best pitchers in baseball. And then you're telling me he's also the best hitter in baseball. Oh, and he can steal bases too with the new rules. It's incredible. And once again, you might as well make some investment on Ohtani and MVP, because the only thing that can stop him
is health. That's it. That's the only thing that could possibly derail an Ohtani MVP again.
For Jacob deGrom, health has gotten in the way of a lot. The last time deGrom was really healthy, he was a minus money favorite to win NL MVP because the Cy Young race was already over, then got injured and ended up not even winning the NL Cy Young that year. Now he's on the Rangers, a team that brought him in, won a World Series, but not because of him. The follow-up to the World Series win was missing the playoffs, so the Rangers are desperately hoping that deGrom can be healthy and they can rebound. Is it ever reasonable to expect deGrom to actually be healthy and excellent?
I love optimism. I color myself an optimistic fellow. But in this situation, this is a guy that hasn't thrown 100 innings since 2019. That's a long time ago now. It's 2025, folks. And I like to be optimistic. I think it's fascinating, too. You look in the fantasy community, they've already got Jacob deGrom as a top 20 pitcher, which I think is honestly kind of absurd at this point. Now, the Texas Rangers are betting on him being that guy because, they let Scherzer go. They've let some other guys go. They haven't really done, I think, too much or enough to that rotation to really give themselves some more depth. So they're putting their eggs all in the deGrom basket, which theoretically, again, after the surgery should be good. But we've seen him go through procedures before. We've seen him go through long stints and then rehab and then come back and have setbacks. So to make a giant investment in him, if you're looking right now on like a over-under on starts on Jacob deGrom or any numbers on him, I would be shading all the unders. Because once again, you need volume from him to get back to that greatness, that true greatness. And when you haven't thrown 100 innings in over 5 seasons, I think that's asking a lot of Jacob deGrom. I think it's asking a lot on the Texas Rangers' behalf, too. They want to get back in this thing. They want to be relevant again after a down season last year. And I just don't know if they have enough pitching to do it, to be honest.
It's going to be fascinating. I think it's also fascinating. He has the third best odds to win AL Cy Young. Maybe it speaks to the field, but it probably just also speaks to the name power that he brings. I'll shift this to his former team. The Mets infield is fascinating. There's elements of who's going to win certain jobs. Is Jeff McNeil on the decline? But it's also, how does the captain feel after kind of being the last piece of the offseason in Pete Alonso? Is Francisco Lindor going to be an MVP for a full season or half a season like he was last year? Is Vientos the real deal? That infield as a whole, Joe, feels incredibly fascinating.
Well, I'll throw another wrench into that infield, too. I'm going to throw Luis Angel Acuna in there, too, because this guy had a really good rookie season here for the Mets. Actually, not even a rookie season because he didn't qualify. He had a little cup of coffee, but in terms of his first time in the organization last year in a full season, some good minor league numbers. He went to the AFL, hit .337 with a .914 OPS, had 3 homers there in 30 games. I think this guy is ready to take over that second base job from McNeil, a guy that has struggled with injuries. And to be honest, I think at this stage in his career is better off being a part-time player. Mark Vientos, I think, is a star. I don't think there's a way that he does not drive in 100 runs this year with that lineup ahead of him. Make a great point about Lindor, too. It's been an incredible run for him in the second half, incredible playoff run, but to put that entire great season together has still not quite happened for Lindor as a Met. So hopefully now with Soto hitting behind him and then bringing back Pete Alonso, which is crucial, too, you're lengthening that lineup. It's really important to have Alonso back in that lineup for now because now all of a sudden you can put Nimmo back in there in that 4 spot, hit Vientos 5. And don't forget about Alvarez either. Alvarez, was known for the bat in the minor leagues. I think he'll make adjustments. I think he got a little thrown off last year. It's a lot of pressure managing those pitchers, being a young catcher. I think he gets back to being that offensive threat that he was in minor leagues. But the breakout guy to me is Acuna. I would watch him very closely. I'd be investing in him because this is a guy that has Rookie of the Year potential in a sleeper version because he will, I think, eventually take over that second base job. And McNeil has not been the picture of health nor productivity in the last couple of years. So I think he's better suited for a utility role at this stage in his career.
And you see sitting there 35-1 to win that NL Rookie of the Year. Let me ask you with the Red Sox, it's kind of open-ended there. It feels like it's just this list of boomer bust guys rounding out their rotation. Do you feel strongly about one of them, perhaps newly acquired Garrett Crochet?
Yeah, I think we all feel very strongly about Garrett Crochet. The strikeout potential for this guy is off the charts. I mean, this is a big left-handed pitcher who can bring that heat. He has enormous, we're talking 250 strikeout kind of potential. Now, last year threw about 149 innings, we're looking at that jump this year. Can he jump to that 180, 190 range? I think that's very reasonable that he can do that. He's also going to be pitching a different environment, I think, which is really important too. So wasn't a lot of pressure on Garrett Crochet for the White Sox. They weren't working with a lot of expectations, I think it was safe to say. Now that he's changed the color socks he's wearing, the Boston media is a little different. The Boston fan base is a little different. So that'll be interesting to see. What I love about Crochet is, despite the fact that he is a big left-handed hoss, his delivery is really repeatable. His mechanics are really good. So I think Crochet is a terrific investment. They did not give up a whole lot to get him. I was shocked. They didn't have to touch a Roman Anthony or a Christian Campbell or any of those top guys. So incredible move by the Red Sox. And the rest of this rotation, really, I think, Tanner Houck had a really good season last year. Cutter Crawford was a contributor. Going out there and signing Walker Buehler, I think, was really important, because if you're getting the Walker Buehler that you saw towards the very end of the postseason against the Mets and against the Yankees, where that ball was really starting to move, you might have found yourself potentially another frontline starter. So they've got some depth. Bayo hopefully takes a step forward too, but I really like what the Red Sox have done. And now with signing Bregman and possibly some of these kids that I mentioned who did not get traded, coming very quickly to Boston, the Red Sox are going to be very competitive in 2025.
And the last one to watch is not the present, but the future, potentially. They're going to try out the robot umps in spring training, which I know a lot of people will have a lot of opinions about. Though recently the streak MLB's on, the initial reactions will be nightmare, disaster, they ruin the sport, and then it'll actually be a godsend and be awesome. Joe Pisapia, appreciate it. We got to do it a little bit more often. We're taking a break. You keep it right here. Sports Grid is with you on this Thursday.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
You watch playoff games. The playoffs are all that matter. The league's got an issue. They just don't want to admit it. They brag about how huge they are, how global they are. Ratings are through the roof. Profits are through the roof. I mean, between the NBA and NHL lying about their ratings and the money they make, I'm sick and tired of it.
Pharrell, Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
I guess this is the battle for second place in the NBA's MVP. It's been Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. He was like minus 250 a couple months ago. Then last month it was 3-1. He is now up to minus 440 here.
Voter fatigue is a real thing, but there is a chance for him to maybe go on a hot tear, go on a stretch that maybe opens the conversation back up a little bit. I wouldn't say Shai's completely out of the woods just yet.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Man, we're back with you right here. We're about to make it happen on Game Time Decisions. I'm Kevin Walsh with you on this Thursday night. I'm joined by now Coach James Young. JY, it is a Thursday, and the NBA is back in full effect. How you feeling?
Thirsty Thursday, baby. We got a full slate. We got guys getting hurt. We got Wemby with blood clots. What the blood clot, if you say in your reggae voice, but hey, it's JY time. It's Caleb time. Caleb, are you not going to see you this weekend in studio?
I mean, how lucky can you be? But yes, you will. We will be in the mix right here Saturday night, where we will talk about everything going on, but Illinois Duke, Lakers, Nuggets. Let me start there, Coach. Panic level for you after the Lakers lose last night to the Charlotte Hornets and Luka struggles once again.
Not a big panic. Listen, at the end of the day, Kevin, they're not going to be judged on now. That's why I didn't even really care, and I told people I would go under their win total. It's about making sure they're right when the lights come on, right? Be in the top 6. Tried, if you could, to avoid Denver in the first round. I think that's a rough matchup with Joker. And then go to work. So to me, there's going to be struggles, right, Kevin? Because you have two guys that are big ball dominating players that have to figure out how to play with each other on the fly. And then Austin Reeves is another guy that's really playing well. They got to figure it out. Am I concerned about the rebounding? Yes. Am I worried about the rim protection? Yes. But I don't judge the Lakers on the regular season. I judge the Lakers once the playoff starts.
So for me, I think it's one of those situations where if the Lakers are losing games pathetically or badly, and Luka Doncic looks anywhere near his actual level, then I will massively downgrade what their ceiling is. Luka doesn't look like one of the 40 best players in the NBA. That's not who he is. And until now, if Luka never gets to that, if it's late March and this is still who Luka Doncic looks like, okay, yeah, then it's going to be a problem. But I don't imagine that is the case. The Nuggets are in action tonight, JY, against the Hornets. Is that a game that you're looking at, or NBA somewhere else for you here on this Thursday night?
Well, let's start with the plays. All right, I do like Memphis on the money line at Indiana. When you look at Memphis 5-2 straight up coming into the break, Indiana 2-3. But the real thing is if you look at the matchup, I don't think this is a good matchup for the Pacers. So I do like the Memphis Grizzlies on the money line. All right. When you keep going, Hawks versus Magic. Ready? It's a Hawks game, and I expect defense. It's 223.5. A team that scores a ton. Magic have held 3 of the last 4 under this number. Kevin, last game, I think it was like 112, 108, or it was like 220 or under 220, the total between these two teams. It's a 3-team race in the Southeast Division, and they play 3 times the rest of the year. I think this game goes under 223, and I don't know how much it's moved. The last time I saw it was 2.5. I don't know if it's more. I'm going to take the Suns on the money line tonight, provided that it's not a crazy number. If it's more than 2.5, I will still take the minus points. Simply put, Wemby injury, scary stuff when you're dealing with blood clots. But the Suns, who did not look good going into the break, Kevin, they got to turn it on now. Like now. So I like the Suns to get the win. And if it's more than 2.5, I will take them minus the points at San Antonio tonight.
So let's stay there. The Victor Wembanyama news comes out. He's going to be out for the remainder of the season. You know, when it comes to a blood clot, something like that, in a way, again, I kind of said, as much as it's bad news, it could be good news. It's glad they found it. It seems early. They think it's a one-off. That's great. It does, JY, mean he will not win Defensive Player of the Year again. As we sit here now, how would this, if it at all, impact how you would bet Wemby next year a Defensive Player of the Year, and how that number could look next year?
If he comes back healthy, that number is going to be stupid. He'll probably be what? I think it'd be minus money. I think it'd be like minus 175, minus 200 going into next year because, Kevin, he was going to win like the next 10. But the problem is, will he stay healthy, right? So when you start looking at the odds now, Jaren Jackson Jr. the favorite with Evan Mobley, Lou Dort. I am going with, what do they call this guy? The Barrier Reef? Dyson Daniels was like, his numbers moved, I think, tremendously over the last 24 hours, the last 12 hours. Even after the Wemby injury, he's the one that's flying up the board. They like to give it to guards. 15-1 Dyson Daniels, 15-1 Lou Dort. I may just split it and just go with those two and think that maybe one of those two guys can steal it at the end, particularly that, especially Atlanta. If they find a way to win the Southeast and this kid continues to play really good defense, Dyson Daniels is 15-1. I think the number's going to keep shrinking as they keep playing better.
The crazy thing is, and I think it's possible, JY, I'm not running to grab Mobley or Jaren Jackson Jr. just yet. OKC's defense being so excellent, you would think, okay, we got to look towards an OKC guy. Please don't do the Marcus Smart thing again, except like way, way worse. Please, this is not Lou Dort's award. Stop. That's bad. I can't have that. I can't. JY, Lou Dort is not their best defensive player. We'll leave it at that. Would anybody... But JY, like SGA, J-Dub, Chet, Hartenstein, Kassan Wallace, SGA, like, please. Lou Dort is not Defensive Player of the Year. The crazy thing is, despite how good they are defensively, they might not have a real candidate. Because SGA is not going to win MVP and DPOY. Jalen Williams is not known enough for his defense. Chet missed all that time. Hartenstein missed time. Caruso doesn't start. He's not going to win Defensive Player of the Year off the bench, and he missed a lot of time as well. It's, again, going to be a very, very interesting race. One, though, that we'll keep our eye on, undoubtedly. We'll be back here with Coach James Young, talk some college next.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
You watch playoff games. The playoffs are all that matter. The league's got an issue. They just don't want to admit it. They brag about how huge they are, how global they are. Ratings are through the roof. Profits are through the roof. I mean, between the NBA and NHL lying about their ratings and the money they make, I'm sick and tired of it.
Pharrell, Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
I guess this is the battle for second place in the NBA's MVP. It's been Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. He was like minus 250 a couple months ago. Then last month it was 3-1. I mean, it's now up to minus 440 here.
Voter fatigue is a real thing, but there is a chance for him to maybe go on a hot tear, go on a stretch that maybe opens the conversation back up a little bit. I wouldn't say Shai's completely out of the woods just yet.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid. All right, back with you right here on SportsGrid. It is Game Time Decisions. We're going to run through some the rest of the card with Coach James Young. Top of the hour, we'll talk to both Joe Madden and Tom Vecchio on the Four Nations tournament tonight with USA versus Canada. Joe, let me give it to you open-ended here. Take me through the rest of your card here on this Thursday night.
Yeah, we're going to go with Paul George over 23.5 points, rebounds, and assists. He's missed his 6 straight. And if anybody saw how he was getting ripped on social media for going on vacation and the pictures of him and his wife posting, this is a pride spot tonight. He's got to give me something over 23 PRA. To go with the Wemby injury, Jeremy Sohan over 9.5 points. 4 of the last 5 power forwards have scored at least 10 points versus the Suns. Only guy to not get there was Aaron Gordon at 9. Give me Sohan over 9.5 points. Cat over 16.5 rebounds plus assists. Under 5 straight, 21 the last time for Chicago. And because of keeping Vuce off the boards and the fact that Cat's going to be a problem, I think he's going to have to be a little bit of a distributor at times. Cat over 16.5 rebounds plus assists.
All right, so that is how it's looking for Jay White on the NBA tonight. I'll just say for me again, Siakam over the 10.5 rebounds plus assists. Bulls, I took him catching the 12. And then my favorite is Chris Paul tonight over 16.5 points plus assists. Coach, you're getting in the mix with the college card as well, which college backers will be jazzed up about. It's not a great slate tonight. Only one ranked team in action, which is Maryland here. What are you on college basketball-wise?
Well, let's start with Maryland. I'm going to lay the 10.5 with Maryland at home versus USC, the must-bust. When you think about them defensively, where do they struggle, Kevin? Guarding bigs. Queen, Reese, those two should get busy. Give me Maryland minus 10.5 at home. Next, we're deep sea diving tonight, baby. Central Connecticut State, the Blue Devils, not the Duke Blue Devils, the Central Connecticut State Blue Devils, minus 11.5 at Chicago State. 7-1 against the spread the last 8. They already have a 17-point win for Chicago State. Anybody know about Chicago State? They don't have a league, so they got to kind of mix and match to play everyone. I like Central Connecticut State minus 11.5 on the road. And then lastly, San Francisco minus 15.5 at home versus Pacific. 5 straight covers. If you look at Pacific, 1-3 against the spread the last 4 road games. The Don Dadas get it done. Minus 15.5 at home.
JY tonight on the college board. JY, I saw this kicking around. Did you see, I think, what they're calling the Maryland starting 5?
No, what are they calling them?
The Crab 5? Not bad.
Ooh.
Not bad.
Hey, Maryland got some good crabs too, brother. Breaking Dungeness crabs. Ooh. Delicious.
I am excited to see how that plays out. This Maryland team, maybe it's because they just have not had like super high-end success. Perhaps it's because they've been playing a softer portion of the Big Ten schedule. But hey, man, 20-6 is 20-6. They still have a game with Michigan State left, and they're going to have a trip to Michigan with remaining in their schedule. I think this is going to be one of those teams to keep an eye on, Coach, no doubt. Come tournament time, you mentioned that duo of Reese and Queen, very rare, hard to match up with team.
Yeah, they really are. When you have 2 dynamos like that, inside, and they can score inside out, it presents a nightmare because you usually don't have 2 guys at that size, Kevin, that can defend. So, what does Kevin Willard should do? Play chess. Find a matchup and exploit it, whether it's inside or outside with Queen or Reese. Either one. Queen is secretly good off the bounce. People talk about all these great freshmen and don't talk about the kid from Baltimore. This kid's going to be another high-impact guy. Should be a lottery pick in the draft.
Derek Queen certainly is. The reminder again that the people need. This Saturday night, myself, Coach James Young, live and in person, Illinois Duke, Lakers Nuggets, and I will also likely be coming on the heels of betting more Mississippi Valley State Delta Devil basketball. So, I'll be fired up one way or another, Coach.
Oh, yeah, listen, it'll be fun, but I just hope. And then, listen, another sneaky matchup on this. You got to also remember, folks, same time, Missouri, Arkansas, Cal's last stand. He's got to do something 4-9 in SEC. And a sneaky good 10 p.m. BYU off of that huge win off of Kansas goes to Arizona. That's another sneaky good game on Saturday night.
Cannot wait to watch it all play out, man. It's going to be a lot of fun. Should be a good slate tonight as well here, man. It's nice to have the NBA back. But, JY, they're demanding I talk hockey. Could you believe?
What? USA! USA!
Look at you.
What are the names? Kachucks? The Kachucks? Are they playing?
Yeah, they're in the mix, Coach. I will see you Saturday night. We'll talk to Joe Madden and Tom Vecchio next.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
You watch playoff games. The playoffs are all that matter, and the league's got an issue. They just don't want to admit it. They brag about how huge they are, how global they are, ratings are through the roof, profits are through the roof. I mean, between the NBA and NHL lying about their ratings and the money they make, I'm sick and tired of it.
Pharrell, Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
I guess this is the battle for second place in the NBA's MVP. It's been Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. He was like minus 250 a couple months ago. Then last month it was 3-1. He's now up to minus 440 here.
Voter fatigue is a real thing, but there is a chance for him to maybe go on a hot tear, go on a stretch that maybe opens the conversation back up a little bit. I wouldn't say Shai's completely out of the woods just yet.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Game Time Decisions is here with you on a Thursday night where there's a lot going on. But the Four Nations is going on. The final between USA and Canada. Last time, it was everyone versus OK Dubs. Now, it's actually Joe versus Tom. Tom Vecchio, Joe Madden with us right here on this Thursday night. I am excited to see what you both think about this game tonight. And, Joe, I am going to go to you first here. A pick'em, minus 110. Either way you look at it, are you betting the money line or perhaps this 5.5 total in tonight's final game?
Well, I do think there'll be a live betting opportunity at some point in this game to get some better value on the team that you do think will be able to get the win. But I'm going straight up in on Canada in this one, Kevin. I think John Cooper is going to make the necessary adjustments and have this team firing, fighting for those rebounds, and able to find the back of Connor Hellebuck's net. So give me Team Canada in this one.
Some love there for Team Canada from Joe Madden. Tom, tell me, how are you starting to see the side or total potentially in this game?
I'm on Team USA. That's no surprise. I've been on them for a while, but I am also on the under. I think the under is the very, very clear play. Just the verbiage that we've seen out of the coaches and the players, like this is a game that they are taking as equivalent to a Stanley Cup final game. That is the tone that the players have set, especially, as I mentioned to Ben and Donnie this morning, someone, from like Jack Eichel, who has won a Stanley Cup, who's played in an NCAA final. He is playing this as a Stanley Cup Game 7 type of environment. So a lack of scoring and a lack of chances, more importantly, I think is what we're going to be seeing. So I do like Sidney Crosby to have a point just because I do like the odds at minus 128, excuse me. But this game is all about the under.
All under for Tom here. The thing is, if it's a big game, I got to get in the mix, right? I can't just be on the sidelines as much as I may be like a little dismissive at sometimes. And I have to do my job more than anything, which is be the most unbiased man in the history of sports media. So I took Team Canada's first period team total over half a goal. I mean, listen, some people are trying to ship me out here. Joe, I think they score early. They've done it in all their games. Hellebuck's given up a first period goal in each of his 2 games so far.
Yeah, absolutely. Connor Hellebuck only giving up those 2 goals. They've all come in transition. And I'm looking for Connor McDavid to make that big play again and be able to hit him nice and early in this game. So, Kevin, I love where you're going there, but I need the goals to stop there in the first period. I've also taken an under in this game, under 1.5 in the first period, which is opposite to all of the trends. We've seen all of these round robin games fly over that 1.5 with both teams normally scoring in the first period. But I think this one is exactly like Tom said, a lower defensive battle out there on the ice. And Cale Makar is really going to step up for Team Canada. Remember in that last matchup when they faced each other on Saturday, he was not in this lineup. So he's going to be a difference maker out here for Team Canada. He has to be, because the forecheck is brutally hard out there for Team USA. They're going to be all over Canada in this one.
Tom, I'm curious what you think about my play on the first period Canada team total over half a goal.
What are the odds on that? Most importantly, let's start
minus 136, but there are some profit boosts out there.
Okay, I think those are fair odds. Depending on how you expect the game to play out. Canada coming out of the goal early would certainly, take the momentum out of the building. They are playing in Boston. That is important to note. So I'm fine with, I think the odds are fair. I probably wouldn't go further than a minus 140, minus 150. It also depends on what you're expecting from the game overall, because I think the general consensus, and Joe, you probably agree with this, is that if Canada wins, it's going to be a lower scoring game. If, when Binnington gets uneasy in net, he often allows 3-4 goals. Like, that's just the MO for him recently. So if USA can win this game low scoring, USA can win this game high scoring, Canada can't win this game high scoring.
Yeah, I completely agree.
I think that makes for an interesting thing. I will not that Tom is wrong. I do feel sometimes we do that and then we just, it's like, oh, wow, Canada won 5-4. I don't know. Sometimes like sports where it's like clearly one team has to win this way, one team has to win this way, and it can always kind of veer off. Joe, I know you're always looking at props. Any stones we haven't necessarily unturned on that side of the menu?
Yeah, absolutely. I love where Tom's going with Sidney Crosby. I think he can find the back of the net, but this is about that defensive battle. This is about the goaltending for me as well. I'm looking at both of these goaltenders over their save shots on goal. Connor Hellebuck rolling in here at 27.5, while Jordan Binghamton's only at 25.5. Now, you got to remember, Jordan Binghamton has the weight of this game on his shoulders. Either he's the hero for Team Canada tonight, or he's going to be the scapegoat that everyone is blaming the weak goaltending here. Look at Jordan Binghamton the last time he was in a game under this much pressure. Back in 2019 Stanley Cup Finals with the St. Louis Blues, he stopped 32 of 33 shots on his goal here in Boston. I'm looking for him to have a big night. I'd hold him up to 28.5 safe shots on goal.
Tom, have you found any props that you like for this game? I know our guy Coach was trying to get a few out of you before he got out of here.
So, like I said, I like the Sidney Crosby for a point of minus 128. I don't mind taking a longer shot on a player for goals. So I mentioned to Coach Zach Werenski, who's having an awesome borderline Norris caliber year for the Columbus Blue Jackets. Just expecting not one of the chalk players to hit. It's going to be a depth score, as we saw on Saturday night with Dylan Larkin. I think it could be someone along the line, maybe a Matt Boldy. Not someone like Jacob Slavin. Like, that's a little bit too far down the list for me, but I would also be looking to Sam Bennett. There's someone for Team Canada, maybe not Hagel, but a point for Canada as well. He hasn't been playing a top 6 role as he normally does for the Tampa Bay Lightning. Obviously, McDavid and McKinnon have those roles up top, but one of those deeper players, just because I think there's going to be fewer chances overall. And it's going to be coming from a spot that we don't normally expect.
The question then becomes the face-off MVP. Do you guys feel that the whole tournament will be taken into account, and that's why the Hellebuck and McDavid numbers are at the top, or tonight's game is going to carry exponentially more weight, say, Tom, than the other meetings that we've seen throughout the Four Nations face-off?
It depends on what kind of outcome we get tonight. And I spoke about this with Ben and Donnie this morning. Jake Gensel has 2 goals, and he had the empty net goal against Canada on Saturday. So it's empty net goal. It is what it is. But if Jake Gensel has 2 goals tonight that are non-empty net goals, and one of them's a game-winning goal, we're talking about 4 goals in such a short time frame. That could put him in the conversation. Now, I think they may default to Hellebuck, especially if it's a 2-1 game, a 3-1 game, like he's the anchor. He's the reason that they quote-unquote won. But a player that has multiple goals in multiple games has to be in the conversation. And the same thing can be said about Nathan McKinnon. Very in play for the MVP.
How do you see it, Joe?
Yeah, I see it exactly the same way as Tom. You've got to look at how this one plays out tonight. I do think this will be the heavier weighted game. If Connor Hellebuck comes out there and shuts down Team Canada and wins in a very low scoring game, I do think he will get it over anyone else on that team. But when we look at Team Canada here, I do think Connor McDavid is a front runner for Team Canada for a reason. How beautiful his goals are coming into these games. He has that ability to win in transition and really nail Connor Hellebuck in this one. So if he can come out, he can sink that goal nice and early and get the momentum shifted in Canada's direction. I could see it. But you got to look, what if Jordan Binnington comes out and does what he did back in that Stanley Cup Finals? Jordan Binnington should be the MVP if he's able to do that. You look at him in those last couple of games, he's aggressive with the puck. He's passing that puck down the ice to his players. He's not just falling on it. So I can make a case for him to get MVP if Team Canada gets the win tonight.
I'll throw out a hypothetical, and it may, Austin Matthews is 130-1 for a hat trick. If he has that hat trick, he's 250-1 to an MVP. Austin Matthews has not done much of anything, right, in the build-up to this game.
Right.
If they win this game 4-2 and he has a hat trick, how that looks, I think, is a fascinating thing. It's a game everybody is excited for, and it's why we had to get both Tom and Joe to help us out. We'll talk to Dane Martinez next right here. It's Game Time Decisions on SportsGrid.
So my team didn't win this weekend, but I still did with this app that's taking over the game. Sports Millions Pick'em lets you make quick and easy predictions. Pick your favorite players, go higher or lower, and you can still win big even if your team loses. Plus, the multiplier is insane. With just a few picks, you can win big money. So get on it. They've got a welcome bonus to help you start off your winning streak.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
The two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What?
How do you do this once?
Oh, Donnie, you've got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
We are back at the right here on SportsGrid, and it is Game Time Decisions. I'm Kevin Walsh, and I'm joined by Dane Martinez, the spitting statistician. Dane, how are we feeling here on a Thursday night?
We're doing all right. I'm happy that the NBA is back. I know we had Charlotte and Los Angeles because of the wildfires yesterday, but we've got, it's really back now, so I'm excited to go.
And Dane's got some props for us tonight, so we're going to go through those. We can kind of expand big picture. We've got Dane here for a little bit, so we may be able to talk a little NFL as well. You mentioned the Hornets game last night. Look, the Lakers kind of imploded. Reeves got thrown out. Luka's not right. We can see that. But also, Miles Bridges had a heck of a ball game for all 4 quarters. Now tonight he goes up against the Denver Nuggets. What do you expect from him in that spot?
Yeah, I actually think what he did last night helps me with the line tonight. I'm going under for Miles Bridges. I'm going under 25.5 points. Listen, he did have a good game, but he's only averaging 19.8, for the season, right? He's gone under this in 6 of his last 8 games. And also, on the second night of a back-to-back, the last time this happened, he only played 28 minutes. He only had 7 points on a back-to-back February 9th and February 10th against Denver. In a similar kind of spot, he went under this number in a back-to-back on February 1st. Denver is a 16-point favorite. I always think when there's big numbers like this, Kev, there is the blowout potential, and some of the studs, especially for Charlotte, on a second of a back-to-back. Bridges may be in, warm-up clothes for some of the fourth quarter. And also, LaMelo is back from the ankle injury, right? So he takes up some of that usage as well. You put it all together, especially the fact that Bridges is averaging literally 5 points lower than this number. I'm taking the under on Miles Bridges.
And one thing I'll say, because they ultimately ruled LaMelo out, but here's the incredible thing, Dane. With that, we've seen 12 games this year for Miles Bridges, no LaMelo Ball. In only 3 of them, he had 25-plus points.
Right.
So, and we're talking 25.5. So that's a great opportunity there on a Miles Bridges under going up against the Denver Nuggets. One of the more fascinating games tonight is Phoenix and San Antonio with the Victor Wembanyama news. I don't know if your action came before or after, but we knew Wemby wasn't going to play, or we expected him not to play tonight. What do you think about that game, and then also a little bit about Wemby's now being out for the rest of the season?
Yeah, so in that game, first of all, right, without Wemby, you got to figure out who's going to pick up that slack, who's going to get that usage, who's going to get some of the stats that Wemby was going to get. And I go to Jeremy Sochan. Okay, I think the rebounding is going to be there. And let me tell you something. This is part of the reason, Kev, you got to shop around. At least earlier today, in some books, his rebounding number was 5.5. In others, it was 7.5. That's why it pays to have accounts everywhere and get the best of the numbers. So why go over 7.5 when I can go over 5.5, right? So I think that's great. He averages 7.2 a game. Now with no Wemby, I think also Sochan's going to get more minutes. And I think that is the key. I mean, a stretch in December, there was like 6 in a row where he went over this number. He averaged like 10 boards a game. Already in February, he's got games of 8 rebounds, 12 rebounds. And Phoenix on the other side, they allow 12.5 offensive rebounds a game, Kev. That is the most in the NBA. They allow 45 boards a game. That's also 6th most in the NBA. But I think there's an opportunity for some cheap offensive rebounds when you play against the Phoenix Suns. You put it all together, I'm going to take Sochan going over 5.5. But like I say, with this one, Kev, it pays to have multiple books. There is literally a 2-board difference across some of the spots.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, I'm wondering if some people tonight want to try and climb that ladder for a double-double, maybe around 4-1, potentially, if he can start to get on that type of run. We know, Dane, some people out there like to climb those ladders when you get that prop shot. Perhaps Sochan offers that opportunity. We'll close out some of the prop options in the game between the Blazers and the Lakers. Luke is not playing. We're waiting on, I think, official word if LeBron's going to play in this basketball game. The number's been dropping, the back-to-back. Portland has also been pretty good at home. They're above 500, which was not expected. What are you looking for in this one tonight?
I like Donovan Clingan, man, because, Ayton is still out. And without him, Clingan comes in to be the big man, to be the rebounder. LA doesn't really have that big. That's why they tried to get Williams from Charlotte. And that trade was obviously rescinded, sent back, right? So they don't really have a true big. And I think Clingan is going to be able to get double-digit boards. He had 20 boards on February 12th against Denver in 31 minutes. Like, if he gets previously, if he got 17 or more minutes, he was getting double digits in rebounds, like 5 out of the last 6 times. Now with no Ayton and the fact that the Lakers, really, you talk about some of these guys that are going to be out for the Lakers because they are on the second of a back-to-back. I think Klingon, the guy out of Connecticut in his rookie year, he is going to be that rebounder. And I'm with you, Kevin. There is something going on in the Pacific Northwest. If you can get the Blazers at times as home dogs, which they are tonight, I wouldn't mind that look either.
Man, I got to tell you, Dane, on the spot, you now have me checking Klingon Rookie of the Year prices. This guy's outrageous. First of all, he had a 20 rebound game in the preseason, which shouldn't be possible. He has a 20 rebound game. The race is wide open. Now, what's interesting is we all knew that the Wemby news was going to shift the Defensive Player of the Year market. It made Steph Castle a bigger favorite for Rookie of the Year. I don't know if I fully agree. The Spurs are kind of going to get kicked into obscurity. De'Aaron Fox also might go sicko mode. I still hate that they did that trade. I don't know. The whole thing's bizarre to me.
Really? Why? I love the trade.
I think they rushed it.
Okay. And now they didn't need to do it, right? Because his in-laws were from there. He flies there on off days. He was going to go there as a free agent. I think if anything, Kev, they were going to take a stab at maybe getting into the play-in. You see the end of San Antonio's schedule. They are playing against teams a lot that are, ticketed to try to be in the lottery or get a higher percentage. So I think they were trying to build momentum, become an even more attractive piece to maybe free agents. But you're right. Now with access to the fact that Wemby's out, they could have just done it in free agency anyway, right?
Yeah, and I think they could have even, regardless, I'm not positive Fox is the perfect option. They could have got Trae Young this offseason, we were all told. I'm probably still on an island, would rather Trae, because when everyone's going to tell me he's terrible at defense, don't care, Wemby's behind him. Don't care. And Wemby will average 30 if Trae's setting him up.
But listen, Fox was the clutch player of the year. That's something San Antonio needed. And it's not like Fox didn't have, practice about doing pick and roll with a good passing big man either.
I hear you on that. Dane's going to stick around. We're going to talk some NFL with you on the other side here on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
You watch playoff games. The playoffs are all that matter. The league's got an issue. They just don't want to admit it. They brag about how huge they are, how global they are. Ratings are through the roof. Profits are through the roof. I mean, between the NBA and NHL lying about their ratings and the money they make, I'm sick and tired of it.
Pharrell, Coast to Coast. Only on SportsGrid.
I guess this is the battle for second place in the NBA's MVP. It's been Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. He was like minus 250 a couple months ago. Then last month it was 3-1. I mean, it's now up to minus 440 here.
Voter fatigue is a real thing, but there is a chance for him to maybe go on a hot tear, go on a stretch that maybe opens the conversation back up a little bit. I wouldn't say Shai's completely out of the woods just yet.
Newswire. Only on SportsGrid.
There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
All right, we're back with you right here on Game Time Decisions. The NBA board starting to open up a little bit. High scoring start a little, you would say, from Boston, Philly, from the Pacers and the Grizzlies relative to their expected pace. Not a rocket ship, but a lot of time still within those games. I do want to shift over to the NFL, though. We have Dane Martinez with us right here on Game Time Decisions. And one of the more recent big pieces of news, Dane, in the NFL is actually the Eagles officially announcing their offensive coordinator is going to be elevated within house in Kevin Patullo. And I think for Philly fans, things have been going so well, they're kind of sticking with optimism around everything. But the last time Philly had a great OC that then left because they were in a Super Bowl, they went in-house and they then fired that OC. And this consistent revolving door for Jalen Hurts, I know we're early, right? It's, the Super Bowl was just, a few days ago, it feels like. But do you have any thoughts on the idea that the Eagles went in-house with Kevin Patullo to replace Kellen Moore?
I actually think that that's fine, right? Like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, Kev. I think familiarity is important in that situation, right? Not only for Hurts, but for Saquon, for AJB, and his inner excellence, of course, and of course, Devontae Smith, right? So I actually think that that is a smart move. I got to tell you, where I think the coordinators are a bigger issue, Kev, is in Detroit. They lose both of their coordinators, right? Ben Johnson, head coach of the Bears, Aaron Glenn, now head coach of the New York Football Jets. I think that brain drain can be real. We have seen it time and time again. And I really think that Detroit could take a step back because they lost both coordinators. But I think in Philly, that kind of consistency is actually a good thing for them moving forward.
Yeah, I think that that's valid. I am cautiously again, it's just not the time for doom and gloom, right? I'm cautiously optimistic around that. Dane, there's going to be so many moving pieces this offseason, right? I'm curious how you feel around the T. Higgins stuff. I, at this moment, feel that Cincinnati should be ready to move on, to spend their money elsewhere. And I think T should be ready to move on to secure the bag and be the number one wideout on what could still very well be a contender. There are other teams that are potential contenders with money. How do you feel about the T. Higgins Cincinnati Bengals situation?
It's interesting. I see it the other way, Kev, honestly. And that's where you hear Joe Burrow talking about he'll restructure his deal to keep core pieces, right? I think, in essence, I use a superhero analogy. Joe Burrow knows that the passing game is their superpower, and they need all the rocks in the Thanos glove. And that is Jamar Chase at $40 million, T. Higgins at maybe $30 million. He's going to lobby for Gesicki to stay back as well. I think Joe Burrow offering to restructure is because he knows that that pass game is their lead punch and that he needs Chase and T. And I would be worried about T maybe becoming a quote-unquote number one elsewhere. We saw it. We thought Juju Smith-Schuster was going to be a number one when Antonio Brown left. We thought Anquan Bolden was going to be a number one when Larry Fitzgerald left. It's a little bit different when all of a sudden the attention is on you and you're getting the traveling corner and you're getting the expectations. I think T. Higgins is fine where he is. I think ultimately they are going to find a way to keep that passing game in place for Cincinnati because, quite frankly, that is their best shot at remaining a contender in the prime of Joe Burrow's career. If he goes somewhere, do you really think if he goes to Carolina or New England or something like that as the quote-unquote number one alpha that all of a sudden he's going to experience playoff glory? No. His best chance, especially when Kelsey, I think, is done, is to stay with Cincinnati and have Joe Burrow as one of these studs that can challenge for the throne.
I got to tell you, Dane, I'm not on that side, but I actually really appreciate the thought of Cincinnati being like, look, man, like this is how we're going to do it. The thing I would say about T leaving is I don't think it has to be Carolina, New England. I think Washington, the Chargers, the Packers are teams that could still be calling his name. And that's where Cincinnati is throwing me off in that I think the world of Burrow's abilities. They've missed the playoffs 2 years in a row. So, that is where they are such a difficult team. Where it's like, as long as I stay here, I know I'm going to be successful. They're not Buffalo. They're not Baltimore. They're not Kansas City. That's the tricky thing about them. Dana Martinez. What a treat. What a treat. We're going to be trying to do this a lot more throughout the NBA season. Very, very excited, Dane. Very, very excited.
Anytime, brother, man. Cooper Kupp's going to Washington, by the way.
Oh.
So he's not going to go to Commanders.
Is that good?
And Devontae Adams is going to go to the Chargers. in my humble opinion. But we can talk about it throughout the offseason. It's all good.
He has every. I didn't know you were working with all the other landing spots figured out. That's a great job out of you and a bad job out of me. Dane, you're the best. We'll do it again soon. We're taking a break. We're here on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
You watch playoff games. The playoffs are all that matter. The league's got an issue. They just don't want to admit it. They brag about how huge they are, how global they are. Ratings are through the roof. Profits are through the roof. I mean, between the NBA and NHL lying about their ratings and the money they make, I'm sick and tired of it.
Pharrell, Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
I guess this is the battle for second place in the NBA's MVP. It's been Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. He was like minus 250 a couple months ago. Then last month it was 3-1. I mean, it's now up to minus 440 here.
Voter fatigue is a real thing, but there is a chance for him to maybe go on a hot tear, go on a stretch that maybe opens the conversation back up a little bit. I wouldn't say Shai's completely out of the woods just yet.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Back at the right here on SportsGrid, it is Game Time Decisions, and I kind of just realized there was one piece of NFL news that we didn't get into with Dane that came out today, which was Zach Martin's going to retire. The Dallas Cowboys, longtime offensive guard out of Notre Dame. He's been excellent since the word go for that football team, and it's a loss I am sure they are, kind of devastated to be hit by, where, look, Zach Martin is not every single year lock him in first team All-Pro necessarily, but Zach Martin has been great for this team, and it gives them another hole that they have to fill. And I think that's what gets very interesting for the Dallas Cowboys, who are always a big talking point, understandably so, and rightfully so. But this is a football team that, when we were, in between the wild card and the divisional round, right, I thought was going to be incredibly appetizing in the futures market. Now, the futures market, I think you can almost tell, certainly with some of my recent moves, I'm very interested to see where I land on the baseball board futures-wise. If I like to buy low, right, on a day-to-day board, right, for the Super Bowl, Philadelphia Eagles, National Championship, Duke, I'm not scared to bet a favorite. If we want to win that bet, we can't go too far down the board, right? Sometimes it's great to beat a number, but it's not all about beating a number. But Dallas seemed like a team that could be this incredible blend where they are a perennial contender But we know that that high-end ceiling has escaped them for a very long time. But perhaps with the change from Mike McCarthy to a new head coach would bring some optimism, at least for me. And then they went with Brian Schottenheimer, and that really hurt things. Then, like Micah Parsons, it's like, we'll see what happens with the Micah situation. We'll see if they pay him. We'll see how long it takes for them to pay him. And you remember, we were sat here on the Pro Football Today desk, myself, Donnie, and Joe. They're paying Dak Prescott while we're live on air. Right? It's like, what's... Like, why did you wait that long? What benefit was that? Right? So now it feels that, maybe I'm wrong here, but wouldn't you imagine a Micah Parsons holdouts around the corner? And then CeeDee Lamb is, talked about fan bases. Maybe it does matter. Maybe it doesn't matter. I don't know. But he's like, the Eagles fan base is crazy. He's not wrong. I mean, legitimate maniacs, right? But you could tell it bothered Cowboy fans. Like, I probably didn't need that. And then Dak's like, yeah, we're right there with the Eagles. And it's like, I don't know. Probably didn't need that. Right? And now Zach Martin's retiring. It's like, man, it's this. It feels almost like an avalanche. Like in this moment, right? If it was going to teeter-totter the Dallas Cowboys situation, right? Yeah, as Dave Showerpants here, they can sig. Now instead of, they are the bounce back buy low, we won 11, 12 games, could they just be terrible? And terrible is relative, but we won 5 games. I don't know how it happened, but it happens to teams, right? Where you have those nightmare seasons and, you would say, Dallas just had one. Right? Right? Like, they're so odd, Dave. And I will say, I know it's NFL futures, and I don't know how much you've, talked to guys, but, when was the last time they opened the Dallas Cowboys at better than 50-1 to win a Super Bowl?
Been a while. It's been a while. Yeah. I have to really think about that. We got to go way back.
Yeah.
Into the early 2000s, in that neighborhood. And even then, you didn't do it because they were going to bet it anyway. So it was always priced into the popularity of the team. People like to call them America's team. Tonight, there's only one America's team, and they're playing hockey. Dallas will get bets no matter what, no matter who's playing quarterback, no matter who's coaching them. And the reality of it, K-Dub, is that they're the third best team in the division. No matter what happens in the draft, no matter what happens going forward, right now, perception-wise, third best team in the division.
They're going to be booked that way undoubtedly, but let's think about it that was not even close to the thought coming into the year.
No.
And, man, it feels like at 12, that's important. Because you get closer, it's like if Genti's on the board, they're just going to take him. Not saying it's a bad move, but it feels like they're going to take him, right?
Are you doing the draft talk? Are you really already starting with this? Are you talking about the draft stuff? What are we doing?
I will tell you this, Dave. Look, I am the most unbiased man in the history of sports media. You'll see that tonight when we talk Four Nations.
Yes.
But an Eagles Super Bowl victory, I've not stiff-armed the football thoughts fully.
That's fine.
Right, I'll be honest with people. Getting the Super Bowl winner correct preseason, people are like, everyone does that every. Look, I bet one team preseason they won the game, right?
Hey!
And so we're always looking. That's all. And I do like the NFL draft a lot. I try not to bog you down with that for as long as I can. So then let me move.
Yes.
Let me move.
Yes.
My question to you, as we are going to drop this puck in a half hour.
Maybe.
Right,
probably
yeah.
Over.
Yeah,
Over.
Probably an hour. Probably an hour. Buzz-wise, book-wise, how does it look like this will stack up to that Saturday meeting?
This is pretty good. This is actually one of those situations. Again, maybe not in person, but in hockey markets,
this is the game of the night. Now, there's a full slate of NBA. It's back. There's a full slate of college basketball. There's one ranked team playing, but that doesn't mean you can't find a side in Idaho and Northern Arizona, which is later tonight, and it's probably the home team there. If that one, if you're just looking, Northern Arizona, small favorite. But this game is going to be big, and they're going to talk about this game in reference, like when we get to next year and the Olympic stuff, and they're going to be like, do you remember the Four Nations games, the USA and Canada, how big they were in the handle, how many people watched? And this is the game, K-Dub, that's bringing in the casual fan. Like, you're a hockey guy. You've become more of a hockey guy. But, like, the regular people, even little Consig, she saw me just now before I, got upstairs and got set up and everything in the studio. And she's like, USA's going to win. Okay. Everybody's got an opinion tonight, whether it's side or whether it's total. I think for those of us looking for an actual betting opportunity, I think the total's a little more appealing. I mean, the game's a complete coin flip, as the odds suggest.
You know what's odd? I thought about the side. The first game being in Quebec, and then this game in Boston having absolutely no bearing on the side. I guess they just don't want to put a plus price next to Canada. Like, they're not struggling for bets. That has to be the thought process, right?
They're not struggling for bets, but like up there's books that are like 90% on Canada. Like, it's overwhelming up north. And we got a lot of people that watch the shows and stuff up north. It's going to be one of those nights. And, I got friends in the business that are, Canadian, are rooting for USA side-wise because they're going to get buried. They're going to get buried. That's what happens.
It's probably much worse up there.
Oh, yeah.
Now that you say it. From an intrigue level, it's better if USA wins. We'll talk a little bit more about that. We're with Dave Shirepin here on Game Time Decisions.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
You watch playoff games. The playoffs are all that matter. The league's got an issue. They just don't want to admit it. They brag about how huge they are, how global they are. Ratings are through the roof. Profits are through the roof. I mean, between the NBA and NHL lying about their ratings and the money they make, I'm sick and tired of it.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
I guess this is the battle for second place in the NBA's MVP. It's been Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. He was like minus 250 a couple months ago. Then last month it was 3-1. He's now up to minus 440 here.
Voter fatigue is a real thing, but there is a chance for him to maybe go on a hot tear, go on a stretch that maybe opens the conversation back up a little bit. I wouldn't say Shai's completely out of the woods just yet.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid. All right, back right here, and it is Game Time decisions on this Thursday night. A lot of excitement around the Four Nations tournament. And I will say, I talked about this at the top of the show. I'll throw this your way, Dave. It feels as if this may now change the perception around hockey here now for good, and it will now mirror soccer in that Champions League is great.
Yeah.
You're not the World Cup. NHL regular season's cool.
Yeah.
You're not the Olympics. It feels as if now this is going to become a situation where the biggest thing that will happen annually for the NHL will be their Four Nations tournament next year, the Olympics. It feels as if, is that a bridge too far? That this is now going to become the way that people actually start to consume and really root hockey in?
I think you're going to draw people in. Now, we'll see, because the Olympics will be the world, and there will be teams that aren't in this Four Nations that will be competing. So it will add a different dynamic to it. The next one after that will be the ultimate test, and that's 2 years away. So we don't know yet.
Yeah.
But, I mean, we're looking at a full slate of NBA tonight. We're looking at a full slate of NHL on Saturday. And I said it today to Perrault when we did Bostonian versus the Book. Like, Vancouver is in Vegas on Saturday night. And if you're into this and you've drawn the casual in and they're expecting to see this level of excitement / physicality / entertainment in hockey in Vegas Saturday night when the Canucks come to town, and boy, I can't wait to see Jack Eichel play, and I can't wait to see, Hill do this and what. It's going to be different. So it's hard to live up to, and I think everyone has to take a step back. If you like hockey, you love this. If you're new to hockey, you really like this. I don't know if it takes you to, starting to look at shots on goal props on Saturday. I don't know if it does.
And let me just say this. I've had some fun with the hockey stuff. People should not expect that, and that is not necessary. That is not how you judge success. Basketball just had its best event since the Cavs came back from 3-1 this summer with the Olympics. It was all anybody could talk about, anybody could watch. It was perfect. And then we've spent the first half of this NBA season complaining and being like, wow, nobody's watching. This is the worst thing I've ever seen. Yeah. Now, there was time in between. It's not but my point is, you will not hear me. Again, you will not hear me 2 weeks from now go, see, nobody cares about hockey, that Four Nations stuff. Because then I'd sound like an idiot. That's not you know what I mean? So it just kind of, you talk it through, and it's going to be fascinating to see. It is. I will say this, Dave, for the NBA.
Mm-hmm.
One thing, see, when you're in the flow of the NBA season, like, I got to wait to find out this guy's playing, right? You're used to it.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And then you step away, and when you're met with the first game since the All-Star break, you're like, hey, man, what do you like in the Bucks-Clippers game tonight? I'll let you know at 7:50 because I don't know if Giannis is playing. What do you mean? Oh, I also don't know if Dame was playing. I thought he was at the All-Star game. Oh, he was. And the three-point contest. Yeah. But I'm not sure. Yeah. I'm not sure.
And he did the Mr. Beast challenge, by the way.
All right.
And that guy won 100 times. I was waiting for you to get out there and, knock one down from the logo. The games after the break, it's the easiest night to book. And I loved putting these numbers up because we're all on equal ground. Everybody's just literally, I feel like there is no edge. And it might carry over into all weekend. I mean, yesterday there was a makeup game. The Hornets were 13-point dogs. They won outright. Your man had 2 shots at the end to win the game. He didn't do it. Not besmirching LeBron. He's doing unbelievable things at 40. But the Lakers were huge favorites and lost. Expect the unexpected tonight, tomorrow. You want to talk about not knowing nothing. Nobody knows Squadouche. I love booking this weekend after this because you just put up numbers, you take bets, you hope dogs cover. If they win outright, you sweep everything. So good luck tonight if you're on the NBA.
I will. Yeah, I mean, one, yes, always good luck. I'll say too, and by the way, like, you know, I got a text today from someone talking about like LeBron in the clutch. One, not that David, but like if you're doing the LeBron is in clutch stuff, all you did was tell me we don't need to be having the conversation. That's one.
Right.
Two, that's not the story of that game. The story of the game and the question now is when will Luka Doncic look like Luka Doncic?
Good question.
You know, I saw a tweet last night. You can find it. I quote tweeted it. We'll leave it at that. So, hey, I'm not victory lapping, but, which is like, oh, so you are. Been there, done that. You're victory lapping. Okay? You're victory lapping. Been there, done that. You got the shoes on. You tied them tight. But I told you take it easy on these Lakers. You know, they have a 25-year-old MVP. It's not about now. It's about later. Hold on. Hold on. Why don't we have the 25-year-old MVP look like he's actually played basketball before we victory lap whether this Laker team can win multiple rounds in the postseason? Is that not fair to say?
Listen, you are the most unbiased man in sports
Thanks,
media right now.
Thanks,
you
sir.
have to ask that question. When new guys, especially alphas like Luka, come on a team, you got to find your way. It
Great
doesn't.
point.
You remember when all those guys went to Miami and joined LeBron? And Wade and Walsh, and like they were terrible until after Christmas. Mediocre, 500 even. So they ended up winning a couple titles together. It's going to be okay.
They went to the finals that year. Dave.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's
Everybody with the victory lap, slow down. I like that tie him up tight, though. You did put the shoes on. You're going to do that walk. Make sure the shoes are tied.
Make sure. Baseball? We'll throw something Consig's ways before we button up right here on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
You watch playoff games. The playoffs are all that matter. The league's got an issue. They just don't want to admit it. They brag about how huge they are, how global they are, ratings are through the roof, profits are through the roof. I mean, between the NBA and NHL lying about their ratings and the money they make, I'm sick and tired of it.
Pharrell, Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
I guess this is the battle for second place in the NBA's MVP. It's been Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. He was like minus 250 a couple months ago. Then last month it was 3-1. I mean, it's now up to minus 440 here.
Voter fatigue is a real thing, but there is a chance for him to maybe go on a hot tear, go on a stretch that maybe opens the conversation back up a little bit. I wouldn't say Shai's completely out of the woods just yet.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid. All right, let's bounce around here. Kevin Walsh with Dave Sharapan. We're closing out another fun edition of Game Time Decisions. A reminder, we are live Saturday night, myself and Coach James Young, Duke, Illinois, Lakers, Nuggets. A lot of good stuff for us to get into on that Saturday night, so we will be in the mix. Tonight, Dave will be in the mix for the in-game coverage of USA versus Canada. Dave, I have a bet in this game. You want to take one guess at what it is?
Juice, you got over. You have over.
I'll tell you this. I will say the more I look at it, the more the under, 5.5 is so obvious to everyone. I do want to bet the over 5.5. Canada first period team total over half to goal. Wow, look at that. Someone had to
they're
do
going
it.
To score, right?
Yeah,
Somebody
had to do it.
That's fine. That's been the pattern. Listen, these games, these guys know each other. Unless the goalie just stands on his head for both teams, somebody scoring in the first period. I'd be very surprised if we get through this thing 0-0.
Yeah.
And he did it last time. McDavid split the defense, got in there and scored that goal. I don't have a problem with that bet. I just the game for me has to live up to the billing. I said it prior to Saturday night. You have to commit a felony to get a penalty. Let the refs just kind of skate around, drop the puck in between faceoffs, separate them when they need to be separated. Let the players decide it. Unless there's a really egregious somebody taking away a scoring chance, because the power plays are lethal for both teams.
Yep.
So the in-game opportunities when they go on a power play will be there. I like Eichel to get a point for the U.S. I think he's going to play a major role in the game. He's been excellent, in seeing a lot of ice time. So I like him to get a point tonight for the U.S. I like the game under. I feel like it's going to be 3-1 or 3-2 final. And I don't think there's going to be overtime. So, there's this bet where you can bet
in regulation
the side and will both teams score. And the U.S. is plus 160 at a lot of books, and Canada's plus 180. So for both teams to score. I don't think there's going to be a shutout. So now you have plus working. You can do some stuff in between. That's a little high-level next stuff. But the game is going to live up to whatever the billing is. That's what I hope comes take away from tonight.
It's a great breakdown. I just realized that there was so much more to do.
All
right,
what,
quickly.
national season win total? Is that what
No.
you're going to
All right, hold on. All right, we'll start with this quickly.
Yes, sir.
The Wemby injury, the defensive player of the year. Here's what I said to people. Here's what I said. While I was someone who was like, look, I don't think you should be betting the award favorite at minus 150, 60 preseason, I am not going to tell people, because that's one, stupid and rude, and two, I actually think they made a great bet because he's minus 2,400 at the All-Star break. You just unfortunately got hit with unforeseen circumstances. My thing, though, is, Dave, what happens to the number next year? Because now I feel like people won't be as willing to lay that minus 200, but also anybody who was is going to be like, well, he's going to win it this year. Like, it's very odd to me.
Correct. Making that number is going to be a problem because you're going to have to either take a stand without taking a bet, or you're going to have to give the people a lost leader and let them bet it and make it lower than it should be. Two schools of thought. That's an unfortunate injury, K-Dub.
Yes, it is.
I saw that news today, and I went, man, they went and made the trade for Fox. They were like, things were happening.
Yes,
and
they
Wemby
were.
was leading the charge, and now it's no good. I mean, they're dogs tonight at home against Phoenix. Everybody's playing Phoenix like the game is over.
Yeah.
Is it over? San Antonio could win tonight without him, though.
Yeah. You've put your ear to the ground, Dave. Quickly, I'll do this with you. Spring training game started today. There's more tomorrow. What's the process? Throw up 8.5 and just let the maniacs bet it?
Sides only, no totals.
Oh.
Never put up a total ever.
Oh, come on.
I'd rather not because I don't know who's pitching. I don't know nothing. Just Yankees favored every day, just in case you walk into the book. Dodgers favored every day, no matter who they're playing or who's not playing.
All right.
Yeah, those two are favored every day.
What a start, 12-4 Cubs. This Dodgers team
Panic in LA. People are asking. I'm asking. Somebody's got to. Do not forget Chris Paul over 16.5 points plus assists tonight against those Phoenix Suns. Little revenge spot, little opportunity boost, some shooting bounce back. Oh, it's all too wonderful. In-game live is next.